Today it's going to be a real training in depth of software plus the cutter itself. It won't be a long presentation. We have a couple of slides to show you some principles of how we work, but this training is to be meant real practical, not theoretically in PowerPoint. Today we're going to show you installation process and the workflow in Digital Factory from theory, because we know this is the 80 to 90% solution that really everybody uses at the moment. We have also a couple of other solutions, but we will only touch them in short. We're going to work with Illustrator, and of course, we're going to work with the machine itself. We're doing some live demos here and going to show you what has been improved in the couple of months since we did the last announcement, because we have achieved some major improvements within the last weeks. All this is meant to be an interactive training, so we are really happy for you to use the chat to ask questions. At the moment, everybody is silenced out, but we are happy to receive any questions from your side. So this is really interactive. We can answer questions in the software at the machine. So feel free to ask any questions. We would also ask everybody who wants to leave in the chat the email address or send it directly to us. If you don't want to leave it in the chat so everybody can see it, just send it to us. And so we can afterwards send you a recording of this training, so you can have a look at that later. And we will also send you by email then afterwards a little goodie, so everybody who is participating in the training can have a nice extra. So leave your email address in the chat, or more private, just send it by email to mail@secabo.com, and we will then send the recording and a nice goodie. I think, still some more are coming in, but I think we're now going to start. I'm going to start with my presentation now. So welcome. We're having a look at mastering DTF transfer automation, and this is hands-on with software and our machine. So give you a short overview of all the points that we're touching today. First is I'm going to show you the different workflows that we have found up to now that we know work really well. And we also want to leave you with the knowledge that there is not only one way that you can work, but maybe there are different ways that are possible to work, and you can then choose the right one for you. I'm going to give you a short overview of all the RIP integrations that we have finished up to date. More are work in progress, but we have a couple of integrations ready at the moment. Then we're going to switch to Digital Factory. And I'm going to show you how to do the setup in Digital Factory, and then working with queues in Digital Factory to implement different workflows. There are a couple of settings that you can make there. It's not too complicated, but I think it's good to show the possibilities there for everyone. Then we have the first of our recommended workflows. It's going to be artwork, rip, and then to printer and cutter. Artwork that can be any motif, logo, design. Maybe you can see it here. So workflow 1 is artwork to rip. Artwork can be any kind of logo or whatever that you get from your customer or you create on your own. The second workflow that we recommend is the artwork goes to Adobe Illustrator or CorelDRAW and is prepared in a way that it is enhanced there, and then goes to the rip and the printer and cutter. Workflow number 3 is the artwork is prepared in Illustrator or CorelDRAW with the plugin that comes with the machine, and then goes to PDF and printer and rip, etc. And after that, we're going to switch to the machine itself. So we're going to then have a look at the firmware updates that just came out a couple of weeks ago. We can now skip Mark 3 and 4 if the machine can't find it because the quality is not that good, and so on and so on. We're going to have a look at all the improvements that we did. And then we're going to also do a live demonstration of the things that we further implemented in the workflows in Digital Factory and Adobe Illustrator. So the first workflow that we recommend, again, it's possible to work with many other ways. It's not a must to work that way. So we have artwork, PDF, PNG, JPEG, whatever it is. This goes directly to the RIP software. The RIP can be Digital Factory or any other RIP that supports our machine. Then in the RIP, you press print and cut, and the PLT file. PLT is the plot file. It consists of all the information that the plotter needs to cut the file. This file is stored in a hot folder. The hot folder can be on the desktop, on your laptop. It can be somewhere on the local network. It can even be somewhere. We have a customer who just recently did something with a Dropbox. Most important is this hot folder needs to be accessible from your local network. So later in the process, the machine will drag the file from this hot folder. In the same moment, the RIP file is either sent directly to the printer, or it is also stored in a hot folder or sent via Ethernet to print softwares like most commonly Hosensoft or other print softwares, maybe Aprint or any other software that runs the printer. Then the file is printed one time or multiple times. This can also be another way of creating multiple copies. So working with multiple copies, it's not necessary to do these copies in the RIP software because this will create huge RIP files. So we recommend to do rather short files, 0.5 meter, 60 centimeter, 70 centimeters, and then multiply these print files in PostInSoft or any other. Then, of course, the DTF printer prints. Everything is run through the powder unit, and finally, you have a DTF transfer. This DTF transfer can be a full roll of transfers. It can also be just a sheet or a short roll. So we don't necessarily need a 10-meter long file. We have many customers that use the machine working with rather short files, either just sheets of 60 centimeter length, 50 centimeter length, or 3 meter. And we also have customers using the machine from full rolls. So this is up to the workflow that best fits the way you work. After we have our print, the print is then put on the DTF cutter. And the moment that we start cutting at the machine, in this moment, the PLT file is pulled from the hot folder. So it's not necessary that the machine is connected to the computer, laptop, whatever. It's not necessary that cutting happens immediately after printing. It can be done at any other time. And the DTF cutter will either pull the PLT file by choosing it manually or by reading the barcodes. Both are common ways of using the machine. And it can be every time you cut the same file 100 times, repeated, or it can be 100 different files. So the machine does not care about that. It can be started for cutting 50 files in a roll, and it can be always the same file or always a different file. So this was workflow number 1. Then we have workflow number 2. Again, we start with any kind of artwork, PDF, PNG, whatever. We then use Illustrator, CorelDRAW, or any other software that is used for layouting. In this software, we will enhance the artwork with additional information, the cutting lines, the path that the machine should be cut. And from there, we will send the then created file, could be Adobe Illustrator file, to the RIP. And the RIP will then detect the cutting path. Most commonly is using spot colors, which will also be shown in our examples. These spot colors are then connected to different methods of cutting, perforation, or full cutting. And the rest of the process is the same as we've seen in the example before. So the moment you press print and cut. PLT file is created, print file is created, and the rest of the process is the same. Then we come to the third recommended way of working. This way is a little bit different from the way that we presented before. It includes the Saga plugin. This is a plugin that comes together with the DTF cutter. So everybody who owns a cutter or is planning to buy a cutter will have this plugin. This plugin creates PLT files in Illustrator or CorelDRAW. So the first part of the workflow is the same as before. We get our artwork, we put it into Illustrator or CorelDRAW, and there we do the layouting, we multiply copies, we add cut lines, etc. And then we use the plugin to create the PLT file, store it in the hot folder, and at the same time, we create a PDF. This PDF will then already include the information of the positioning marks, the crop marks that are put in the corners of the print, and also the QR code. If you're working based on QR codes, then this information will also be then placed into the PDF by the plugin. The rest of the process is from here on the same. This part will, by the way, be presented by Konstantin. Many of you already know him, and he will present the way of using the Saga plugin, which settings you can do there, and also clever ways of creating multiple copies of artwork and placing cut lines there in Illustrator or CorelDRAW. And here at this point comes one important information. In the past, the machine has been limited to cut only an absolute maximum length of 880 millimeters at one time. And this limitation does not exist anymore. So the machine is now able to read multiple marks or intermediate marks that are placed in the PDF or the print file on a longer file. The file now can be 2 meters, 3 meters, or whatever length you desire. And the cutter will then cut section after section with an overlap. And in that way, you can create print files that are much longer. At the moment, this workflow with cutting the longer files is you can work with that, because the new version of our firmware and the new version of our plugin is now able to do so. And that's why it's also important that you leave your email address after this, because then we can send you links to download the newest version of the firmware and also the newest version of our plugin. And if you already own Secabo MultiCut Pro, you will also get for free license code to install the Saga plugin, the newest version. It is absolutely planned that this feature of cutting with intermediate marks is implemented in the RIPs. So you can have a native support from the RIP files. We are already talking to the RIP makers, and we're at the moment preparing this step at our side. So as this is just an additional step to all the work that is already done in the RIPs, we believe that it's not that complicated to do that update. And we hope that in the next few weeks, we will see a lot of updates of the already existing integrations and see that these RIPs can natively also support the intermediate marks and being able to cut long files. But if you have the need to do it, you can start using this now. So we are able to show you now how to do it, and you can download the update of the firmware and also get the plugin. So the possibility exists at the moment. So, and the last thing I'm going to show you is the situation at the moment. We're having a native support for our machine in Digital Factory 11. Only if you own the newest version plus the cutting module. So just the direct-to-film edition does not include the cutting module. So you need to run a license of the direct-to-film edition plus the cutting module of Digital Factory. And then there is a native support, and we know that Digital Factory is the most commonly used RIP software with DTF cutters at the moment. So this is also the one that we support the best because we know pretty much all of the details on how to run our machine from that software. ErgoSoft from Swiss is also now offering a native integration of our machine. We also know that there is a big fan base of the RIP software, as it not only features good workflows, but also very, very nice color management. So any of you who uses that one can also now use the DTF cutter in a native support. Then Dev Studio also has a bigger fan base, especially in southern part of Europe, and it also features great workflows that you can automate your work with, great color management, and they now also feature our DTF cutter. Then absolutely new, just since a couple of weeks, is Caldera's Prime Center. Caldera's Prime Center is not a RIP. It's more of a pre-press software to prepare files that are then later sent to RIPs. It has now the native support for our cutter, and it has tons of fantastic features to automate your workflow with recipes to look at the artwork if it's of good quality or maybe not, and then also of course create cut files. Caldera, of course, has a plan to also integrate the machine into its RIP software. And this is planned to be done in just a few weeks. So from there on, it's also possible to get a native support for the Secabo cutter by using the Caldera RIP. And brand new, we finished working and testing with Flexi. It's not available at the moment, but with the next rollout of the software, the next update, we will also have our cutter in SAI Flexi. So there is a great choice already. And as I already said, the list is growing. We have other RIP softwares that are working on it, and we are testing. So the list will get longer in the next couple of months. So just be reminded, any questions in between, feel free to ask. And I will now move on to Digital Factory and start with the basic installation of the cutter and doing the basic setups there. I'm not going to touch the printer side. This is something that we don't look at. We have some touch points regarding reading QR codes, because sometimes if you use a lot of white and a lot of powder, and especially powder with larger grains, it's not super easy to read the QR code. So we have some touch points there, but our part of the RIP is always just the cutting part. Okay, so I'm going to start with a blank Digital Factory. I have one.
Sorry. Just nochmal, damit du das andere Fenster schließen und das aufmachen, weil das klingt irgendwie drin.
Okay.
Wonderbra.
Yeah, can you see it? Okay, fantastic. So I'm going to start with a blank Digital Factory, just with one printer queue. In my case, I've chosen a Mimaki. It doesn't matter which kind of printer you have in there. Just as an example. As I already said, we're working with Digital Factory version 11, and I know that the classic user interface is gray, and there is no technical difference between the two interfaces. It's just that the classic one is gray and the next gen is black. And it's just that the buttons are at a little bit different positions, so don't get confused. It is the same software. Many call it CATlink, how it was called in the past, and it was gray. Now it's Digital Factory from Theory, and it's black, and that's the way I'm going to present it today. If you like, you can always switch between the classic and the next generation version. So no need to use the one or the other to get to these features. The first thing we're going to start with is we have to install a machine, our cutter, because we see in this queue there is no cutter selected. And if you look in your digital factory, you might not see this line with the cutter if you don't have the cutting module. So only if you have the cutting module in Digital Factory activated, you will see this and be able to install a cutter. So I'm going to devices and manage devices, and I'm going to add our cutter. And I'm going to search for the newest drivers from the internet, and that's it. And there it is, the newest version. Okay, now I can go back to the queue settings and going to choose the Secabo DTF MultiCut. And I'm going to do the first settings. The first thing is that I want this to work as a port. I choose file. I already explained this before. The way we work is working with a hot folder. So in the case that we press print and cut in Digital Factory, we will get Digital Factory to store the file in the hot folder. It could be any folder. We have chosen to do it on the this one. We have chosen to do it on the desktop, and so to show you again, it's just a folder on the desktop. And as you can already see, this folder is a network share, so it can be reached from the DTF cutter, as the DTF cutter is either by Ethernet cable or by Wi-Fi integrated into our local network. It does not need to have internet access, just being able to access the local network. And here comes one really, really important point. The folder that we put the files has to be called QRPLT, and it is a subfolder of the one folder that's as defined as a network share. So without that, it's not going to work. Then second really important thing, as a file name, I'm going to choose the barcode value. So the file will always have the same name as the barcode that is printed on your printer to detect the print file. And this will then close the connection between the print and the plot file. And as a default extension, we are using lowercase plt. So all these settings are mandatory. Without them, it won't work. So barcode value, lowercase plt, and the folder name needs to be QRPLT. If you don't want the machine to be connected to your network, it's also possible to work with a USB drive, USB stick. But as this is much slower because you have to really manually carry around the files, the way we recommend to use it is by Ethernet or Wi-Fi. Okay, so that's it so far here in this part. We're now going to have a look at the Q properties here. We will now rename this because this is now print and cut, and we will do some further settings in here. First, we have a look at the media setup. Usually we don't change anything here. In this case, it's set to 580 millimeter of printing width. Many times it's 560, 570, whatever. You don't need to change these settings here. You can keep them as you do it all the time. No need to change the media settings. In the layout manager, I do have a couple of nesting possibilities that I can use in Digital Factory, or I leave it and do all the layouting manually. Of course, everything has to be mirrored on the import. We don't change that. And we have some settings here. Remove white space from bottom and right. Just keep that as it is. One important thing is we need to close the page when a length is reached. The absolute maximum that we support is 880 millimeters. But keep in mind, this is similar to a car. This is the absolute maximum speed. It's not our recommendation how to run the machine at all times. So what we really recommend is a length of 600 to 700 millimeter, because then you have a little bit of freedom where to place the print on the bed. If you use the absolute maximum length, you will have to place it very carefully in order not to get some problems by getting out of the maximum area where the machine can work. So this will make your life, in our point of view, much more complicated if you work with 880 as the maximum. Use 650, 700, and then you will have at the beginning and at the end a little bit flexibility where to place the artwork. Here you can do your favorite settings, space between jobs and copies. We will have a look at that. How about the way we recommend using the machine. If you place multiple different jobs beside each other, we recommend to have at least 3 millimeter on each side to cut through. More easy to have 5 millimeters. And of course, auto nesting is one possibility, but it may not nest the jobs in the perfect way as you like to do it. So doing it manually can also be a good choice for you. So some things we also get asked quite often is the question, is it possible to place some additional information with each logo? Yes, Digital Factory has a lot of features how to do that. You can enable labels per job, and then you can choose which information goes with each job. You can even add a barcode. So this might help you later in the process of finding the right artwork and combining it together with the garment or whatever substrate you put your print on. I'm not going to show this at the moment, but just to let you know, there are possibilities, and click on print labels to choose what you want. Then we come to production markup, and this is, of course, really important. We need to put marks there, marks for positioning, and the QR code to identify the job. We have two different drivers. The Secabo DTF standard one, it's the standard with black marks on the same side as you print. This is commonly used if you work with sublimation paper, and it's classic. So you print is facing up, you have black marks, and could then cut the film or the sublimation paper on the MultiCut. Today we're going to have a look at the DTF mode, because this is obviously why all of you are here. We're going to enable the QR codes. You have the possibility to choose the size of the QR code. Depending on what kind of printer you have, how much white you put there, and most important, how big or small the powder that you put on there, how each piece of that powder is. It can be really easy to read the QR code, or it can be pretty difficult. Of course, the surrounding light settings are also an important point, but more important is the print quality, the amount of white you put there, and the type of powder you use. We recommend to use 15 millimeter, which makes it much easier to read the QR code. Yes, so that's it. You can already see that it's placing one QR code at the top and one at the bottom. So that makes it pretty easy to cut the files as they come out of your printer, because usually they come out of the printer the wrong way. But in this case, you don't have to rewind it. In case you're working from a roll, you don't have to rewind it. You can cut it from both sides. So I'm not going to touch the color layer. You're going to leave that as you have it at the moment. I'm going to have a first look at this here, the wheat border setup. As you can see, we have plenty of different possibilities here. And the first way of working I want to show you is to use the first three of these checkboxes. And we also see that here, the first time we see there is a cut process. And we have obviously different cut processes. So I want this to be not perforated. I want this to be cut through in a classic way. So I'm going to choose the knife. But I will now also have a look at the different cut processes. And I'm going to do this here. Under devices, I have manage processes, and I can now go there and see the process knife. I want an overcut. Overcut is really important when cutting DTF film, because as all of you might know, when the DTF film comes out of the oven, is powdered, it's not going to be 100% flat, and even it's going to have all sorts of tension inside of the material, which makes it a little bit more difficult to handle. There will be a lot of smaller or bigger waves and tension within the material. So the precision when we cut it will not be the same as it would be if it would be super flat, as we know it from cutting sign making or block and flex material, where we usually talk about a precision of 0.1 millimeter, but in this case we talk about precisions of 1 or 2 millimeters, which comes from the material not being 100% flat. So we recommend an overcut of 2 millimeters or above. And then the important thing is that we're going to have a trailing blade. In our case, we recommend using the 45 degree blade, and to use it with a blade correction of 0.3 millimeters. Okay. Good. We're going to have one last look at the Q settings and see again what we did here. We enabled a weed border around each job. We want a knife to be used, and we want to enable vertical and horizontal score lines, which means that we're going to have straight cut lines between copies. This is a way of creating a very fast and efficient way of cutting in a matrix type. If you have 10, 20, 50, 5,000 times the same artwork, it will enable you to do this really efficiently and pretty fast. We have later at the machine also samples, so we will show you this on the machine later. I'm going to start with a first sample. I have an Adobe Illustrator file here. I'm going to import it. You can already see that Digital Factory has created mark points at the 4 edges, and this here is a QR code. Need to zoom in more. We can see this is a QR code. Don't get confused. It's black. It will always be black in the preview. Just because white on white is not visible, later it will be printed in white, so don't worry about that. what I wanted to show is that we want this in a matrix cut and with plenty of copies. So I'm going to rotate this by 90 degrees. I'm going to add copies and now tell the software that I want 50 copies. I'm going to center this on the page, and that's it. Now I can press print and cut, and the file is ripped and the PLT file is created. So this would be the common workflow to create multiple copies of one artwork on one sheet if you need a large number of one different type of artwork. If you now need 1,000 copies of that instead of let's say 40 or 50, our recommendation is to not create a huge file or multiple files in Digital Factory, but use this PRN file, which is now holds 40 copies. And if you multiply this on the printer itself, it will speed up the whole process a lot, because you will then have a rather small PRN RIP file and not a huge one. Because if you do a print of 10 meters length, it can easily create files of 100 gigabyte size, and that would make things very slow. You will need huge storage, very broad connection, and the processor in your computer needs to be big. So if you reduce the size of the RIP file, you will also speed up things at a very high level, apart from the fact that it makes life more easy on your cutter. Of course, it's also possible to combine this. If you not only have one artwork, let's say you need 20 or how many do I have? 16 birds, and you need something else as well. So it's perfectly fine to combine these here, and let's say you need 10 of those, and then you can easily place both of them on one print, and then maybe this is for you one order, one set of transfers you need to do, so you can place both of them on one sheet, place both of them later on the cutter, and cut them there. Our recommendation, if you want to do, let's say, 1,000 of each of them, our recommendation is to separate them, to first do the birds and then the discount codes. That way it will be much faster, because if we create long cutting lines, the machine will be much faster compared to if we have just short cutting lines. So we recommend a length of about 500, 600, maybe 650 millimeter of length, and then do long cutting lines. In that way, the machine is the fastest. I'm going to show you one more thing here in the cues to just outline the difference. If we do not enable this and just enable the wheat border around each job, that's also possible. We now do it again, and we import them, and and we then add a couple of copies, you will immediately see that something happens. There is a rectangle around each job. This is perfectly possible. You can work that way, but it will create two things. The first thing is it will be much, much slower because the length of each cut is short. Then the total length of cutting is much longer, as it needs to be cut around each logo. And the waste that you create is a lot more complicated because you get this waste web. So in the end, you will have all these logos still be inside this this web, and you will have to get it out of that, and you will have a lot more job to do. So our recommendation is not to cut rectangles around each job, but to always use the matrix cut to lay out it in a way that this gap does not exist. One important note is in Digital Factory, no matter if you do perforation cutting or you do cutting fully through, it will always be shown as this type of line that we see here. From the preview, we can't see if it's a perforated line or cut through. Our recommended way to work, if you enable different ways of working, is to work with multiple queues. So we can make a copy of this queue, and I will call it perforation. It will have, for the rest, it will have the same settings. And I will go in here, and I can have a look at the settings here. And now I can change them, and I can choose a different way of working. In this case, I want to do perforation cut. So I'm going to do the processes again, and here I can go for the perforation cut. I also want the same knife to be used. It's got an offset of 0.3 millimeter. I want an overcut of 2 millimeters, same as we had before. And now I want to have the perforation to be done. It's 30 millimeters of cutting and 0.5 millimeters of the blank that is not cut. Save. And now if I import anything into this queue, it always will be perforated. And in that case, I don't get mixed up with playing around with the settings all the time. So if you have different ways of working, you want to do perforation, you want to cut through, or what we will have a look at in the next step is the color actions. You can do these settings in different queues, and that way you don't get confused which settings applies to which queue, and you don't have to change the settings all the time. I'm going to do a third one, and it's going to be for color cutting. And yeah, it's now getting a little bit too long. So I'm going to name it printer color cut. And what I'm going to do there is not going to apply any cuts here. What I want is so-called color actions. And we already see that I have created a color that's called perf cut. Could be any other one. So I can create a color here. I'm going to make it magenta, and it's a named color, and the color name will be sample dem, because I'm doing this as a sample in the dem here. And I want this to be a perforation cut. And we can now move to another workflow that I talked about earlier. We will have a look at Illustrator now. I hope everybody can see my screen. Is it fine? So in this case, I did some layouting in Illustrator. My sample is one, it's for sportswear. I want to do a full set for a team. I added some extra information here. This is no information for the cutter. It's information that comes from for example, the ERP system, or it comes from just transfer information. And I did put some information on the customer number, the order number, and the amount of different shirts that I want to do. And I placed name and numbers and logos and some advertisement that's put on the team shirt. I put all this in a template, and the template you can see it here in magenta, but the color itself is not that important. It's a spot color. And in this case, you see that the spot color name is perf cut. The color itself, you can choose whatever color you like. The only thing that's really important that closes the connection in Digital Factory is the swatch name. So if we now put here a sample dem, we change the color just for making it clear that it's different. And now you can see that the color has changed. It's simple lines that I created here, in this case by hand. I can now save the file and go back to Digital Factory. And close that first. I'm going to drag the file in here. And hopefully, yes, it already detected that there is some cutting information in the artwork. So in that case, Digital Factory will still do its job, create a cut file. It will create the print file, but the information where it's supposed to cut does not come from Digital Factory. The information is added in Illustrator, and it's in here under the color actions, and sample them as detected as cutting with a knife. And if we want, we can also change this to perforation cut. Okay, so this was the first part with the two recommended ways of working with Digital Factory for both creating the information where to cut and arranging the artwork. And the second way, creating the cut lines in Adobe Illustrator. Or this could also be any other graphic software. It can be CorelDRAW or Inkscape or any type of software that you use for doing layouting. And by using spot cutters, you add the information where to cut in Digital Factory. And by pressing print and cut, you can from there create the cut and print file and proceed with cutting and printing. And now I'm going back to here. I'm going to stop my presentation. And now we are at the point where Konstantin will take over. And he will now show you the recommended way of working number 3. Konstantin.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here. As Bernhard said, my name is Konstantin, and I'm glad to be here today and to demonstrate you the process on creating cut and print files using our included plugins for Adobe Illustrator and CorelDRAW. Just give me a second to share the screen again.
Yeah.
One moment, please. I'm just having some connection problems right now, but there we go. Now it's looking good. Let me just minimize some things. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and create a new file in Illustrator. At this stage, we can already demonstrate the new ability of our cutter to process longer files as well. So in this case, I'm simply going to select a document that has 56 centimeters in width by 2 meters in length. So well above our previous limit of 88 centimeters in length. We end up with a blank canvas where we can now import artwork to. I'm simply going to take a sample file. Just take a Secabo logo. At this point, you essentially want to lay out your artwork on this blank canvas. This is what gets printed in the end. Now, our plugin supports essentially all ways that you are able to do that in Illustrator. It doesn't matter if you copy everything by hand, which given would be very tedious in this example, or whether you use native Illustrator functionality, or even make use of some kind of third-party plugin, like we're going to do in this case, to automate this. To do that, I'm simply gonna select this artwork. We've installed a demo version for the plugin PowerScript in our Illustrator installation. This is not something we officially endorse. We're not partnered with them. It's just one of the many options that you have for automating this part of laying out things in Illustrator. There's a lot of options in the internet, and if you simply do some research, or maybe you already have your own processes established for this, we'll just go ahead and do this. So what this plugin essentially allows us to do is simply fill a canvas with as many copies of an artwork that fits in, while at the same time generating cut lines for us. So if we take a look at this, we can see all of our graphics have been duplicated automatically, and we end up with neat cut lines that allow the machine to perform a matrix cut in the end. It's essentially everything we need this third-party plugin for. And as I said, there's many ways of doing this in Illustrator. This is just one of the more convenient ones. Next up, we're going to need to use our Saga plugin. This is the plugin that actually comes delivered with the DTF cutter. So everyone who already has one or who plans on buying one will get those plugins for free. Before we jump in and see what all of these great looking buttons do, let's just quickly jump into the settings. Then I can give you a small overview of the configuration possibilities that you have. The top section, we can simply define what margins we would like to have on the page in case we don't want to print right at the edge. Then our cutter can work with 4 and 2 mark points. We usually recommend working with 4 mark points, as that makes things a little bit easier. Then newly added with the recent firmware update has been the function page segment that specifies the maximum distance that a single segment should be in length. You can freely change this, but please keep in mind that the maximum size of one segment is still limited to 88 centimeters. So ideally you stay a little bit below, so you have some leeway when inserting the media. In our example, we're just going with 500 here. And last but not least, on the lower half of this configuration dialog, we have some knife settings like the blade offset and the close offset. Just going to go ahead and save them. With the first 2 options of the plugin, we can automatically add the mark points. If we scroll down now, we can also see that the plugin took care of generating the intermediate mark points automatically at the specified intervals. So in our case, we should have a pair of marks every 50 centimeters. Then we're also going to need a QR code, which we can simply add by clicking this button. And there it is. And last but not least, we're going to take a look at the layers that have automatically been generated by the Saga plugin. So you can see there's a mark layer, an assist layer, a cut layer, QR code layer. So everything has been organized automatically. And the only thing that is left for us to do is our plugin expects all cut paths in the cut layer. This is required so that it can then automatically generate the PLT instructions for the cutter. The PowerScripts plugin, the third-party thing that we use to actually generate the cut lines very easily in our example, places them in a different layer by default called cut paths. But that's very easily remedied by just dragging and dropping this into cut layer. That's everything you have to do. And at this point, the plugin is perfectly happy to output this in a way that you can just print and cut it. For the sake of demonstration, let me just quickly do that as well. So we have 2 buttons. We have a white save button that asks us to save the PLT file itself. Those are the instructions that the cutter will use to process the file. And we have a blue button that simply generates a PDF file that we can then just rip with any rip essentially, and then process using the matching cut file. Let's just give it a second to save, and then we're quickly going to take a look at the files we just generated. So this is the PDF file that just came out. As you can see, all the cut lines and everything has been made invisible, since we don't want to print that. It's just for convenience in Illustrator. We can also see that the mark points are no longer highlighted with a black background, because they are supposed to be purely white. We take a look at that. I'll just make this a little bit bigger. We can see they're still there, but if we had a white background in Illustrator, we would not be able to see them with the naked eye, because white on white essentially is invisible. But rest assured, they are still there. And if you print this using any rip, essentially, you will end with those marks. Now let's also quickly take a look at the PLT file that has been generated. Bernhard will also run a demonstration on this a little bit later. I just want to showcase the technicalities in the background to you. We simply take a look at this. This is essentially what our cutter sees in the end when he processes the job. You can see it does not care about what exactly is contained in the file. It just cares about what lines it needs to cut. And newly added in the recent firmware are those segments that you see here. So the dotted lines coming from the top to bottom, those indicate separate segments. So the cutter would first process the first segment, then it would advance the media, process the second segment, advance again the third segment, and the fourth segment. Bernhard will show you this later on the cutter itself. And this tool that I'm using here to showcase the PLT file, that is not something you have to do in your normal workflow. This is more like of a debugging tool to see what the cutter is doing. And in this case, for the demonstration now, it's a quick way of just demonstrating you what the cutter would do. Now, let me demonstrate you another use case. So if we simply go ahead and create another file, let's just make it a little bit smaller this time. Using this PowerScripts plugin, or really any functionality in Illustrator, it just does not matter. We can also mix and match things. So let's, for example, take our logo again. It's maybe not rotated this time. In this plugin, I have the option of specifying the amount of copies that I want. Let's just say I want maybe 5 horizontal copies. And let's do 5 vertical copies as well. Just gonna step and repeat, and I end up with the group just like we did before. Just go ahead and move that somehow centered on the page. I can now also take a second graphic, for example, a bird that Julie prepared for us. Just gonna make it a little bit smaller. And I'm gonna do the same with it. And also just lay that out on the page. And as you can see, like whether you place content manually on the page, or whether you use a plugin or any existing workflow in Illustrator to automate this, it doesn't matter. This is just one of the many hundreds of ways there probably are to lay out a page in Illustrator. What our plugin cares about in the end, if we add the mark points and the QR code, is just that all cut paths are located in the cut layer. And that can easily be done by just moving whatever this plugin, in our case, generated and dragging it in the appropriate layer. So at this point, just like before, we have a more customized document in Illustrator that we could now just print and cut. Just to showcase this again, I'm going to save the PLT file. I'm going to save the print file. Let's quickly take a look at that. And if for some reason it did not save the birds this time, let me quickly take a look what's going on. Seems like the birds somehow ended up in the wrong layer. That's easily remedied. Let me just drag that in the appropriate layer. Now it's looking good. Now almost. Sorry, like I'm myself not a professional graphics user, but there we go. Now it looks good. All the graphics in the appropriate layer. Now if we go ahead and save this, let's just overwrite the existing file. The result should look like what we expect. There we go. Now we have our logos and the birds in the same file. The mark points have been generated as earlier with the intermediate marks as required. And if we take a quick look at the generated PLT file, we will also be able to see that this reflects what our document looks like. And yeah, this is something that everyone can use. The only requirement is essentially that you have either an Illustrator license or a CorelDRAW license. We don't include those with our cutter, but the plugins are included for free. That's essentially everything there is to say about our plugins. So now I'll gladly hand the webinar back to Bernhard so he can continue that demonstration on the DTF cutter. Thank you very much.
Okay, so welcome back again. We're now going to look into the machine, and we already have 2 questions. So first, we're going to answer the questions and then look into the machine. So Andreas will read the 2 questions. The first one.
We have one question from David, who is asking, just a quick question. Do you also have issues with the foil not drawing up straight on the roll after it comes out of the oven from the DTF printer? This misalignment causes shifting during transport when auto-feeding the roll onto the Secabo. We have to lift the rollers that keep the foil in place. Otherwise, the foil lifts up and gets stuck while coming.
Okay, so first of all, I think everybody who uses the powder units that are available at the moment has the same issues. The roll-up devices attached to the...
I don't think we have sound here. We have one remark. Can please someone in the chat write if they can hear us?
Ja, ja. Ja, ja.
Okay.
Ton ist wieder da. Everything is sorry.
Okay. So repeat that. So yes, I think 95% of all the devices out there, the powder units and the roll-up devices, have the same issues. Rolling up the film after the powder unit is not perfect. We know there are a few machines out there on the market who can do it, but most of them, the rolling up of the film is not going to be nice. This roll here that I'm using as a sample, I readjusted this roll by hand before I put it on the printer, so it will not come always come out of the powder unit in that quality. Sometimes it is, and as we all know, this alignment of the film as it runs through the powder unit is an issue, and when we put the film here on the DTF cutter and roll it from the roll, if it's not perfectly on the roll, the machine won't make it better. So the quality of the film as it is on the roll defines how long the length of the roll is that we can easily run it from there. We have some recommendations. So if you, Julia, maybe you can have a look at them. At the moment, we work with 3 rollers here. We have done a couple of tests working with only 1 roller in the middle. So depending on the film and the length of the film on your roll, this might decrease the problem that you have with problems that might occur here. This can make things a little bit easier. And the other thing is, if you have a long roll, you might need to fix it a little bit to make it fit better on the roll. And the other thing is that in the field, a large number of our customers, they work with shorter rolls. They work with 2, 3, 4, 5, 10-meter rolls, and only few really work with large rolls of 20 or 25 meters. So practically, the machine will rather be used for cutting one job at a time, and one job is in most cases just a couple of meters. And yes, you can cut longer length, but as the quality of the roll is not perfect, this machine won't make it better as it is pulled on the flatbed. And then we have another question.
Yes, thank you very much. The second question is, but wouldn't it be easier to make several copies in Digital Factory 300, for example, and get the marks regenerated each X length instead of using Illustrator?
Yes and no. So at the moment, if you, for example, do 300 copies of one logo in Digital Factory, and this exceeds the maximum page length in that you want to work with, for example, 600 millimeters. Then Digital Factory will generate a second, a third, fourth, fifth page, however, how long that is. If you then send all of these print files to your printer, most of the printers, that, for example, all that run with Hosensoft, will have a larger gap in between these different print files. So if you do copies of print files, of the same print files in Hosensoft, you can define the distance like we see it here. Here we see it's a short distance, and this can be defined in Hosensoft. If you have different print files, we also have a sample here. In the case of our sample printer that we're using, it's also run with Hosensoft. You can see that there is a larger distance. So if you create different print files in Digital Factory, you will have larger distances between these different print files as you print them on the DTF printer. And I think your question directs into the direction why we do not work with intermediate marks in Digital Factory. And indeed, this is something that we are already working on together with Digital Factory. But at this moment, it's not possible to work with longer print files of 2, 3, 4, 5 meters inside of Digital Factory. So the only way how you can do this today is by using Illustrator or CorelDRAW in combination with our plugin. Later, and we hope this is going to be pretty soon because Digital Factory is already working on that, we can do exactly that within Digital Factory. So you don't need to run Illustrator or any other artwork. But if you have the need and you don't want to run multiple copies in Hosensoft, at this moment, you can do it. You have to use the newest version of our firmware. You have to use the newest version of our plugin, and then you can do it at the moment. And we will, of course, inform you once this is getting possible in Digital Factory or all the other softwares natively. Okay.
Thank you very much. So there are some other questions coming, but I would still recommend that we just continue the presentation and keep this for our Q&A moment,
Okay.
because I think that many of them might be answered there.
Okay, good. So the first new thing that comes with this version of the firmware is connected to the distances between the marks. We see that we have a sample here where we first have a short distance, and then here we have a long distance. And in the past, it was not possible to work that way. And the newest version of the firmware, we're going to do a demo now, is able to do to have a standard distance, and then in addition, if it can't find anything in the standard distance, it will move on for another 200 millimeters and look if it can find something with a little bit of a bigger distance. So this is live, and we're going to do that then now. Now we first look for the first mark, and I'm going to pick light settings here and see if I can find the first mark. We're going to see here a short preview of the file we're working with at the moment. Maybe you can see that we have added some extensions here at the front and at the end of the file. This is another feature that we're working on at the moment. This is a preview right now. It will help to reduce waste handling, because it's going to split the waste that is created, and you can more easily get rid of the web that's around the shapes that you actually want to cut. Okay, my setting that I'm going to do is about 300 grams of downforce. Checking to do that. I'm going to work with that file now. And here it comes. We have already seen there are 2 copies here on the table with a distance of 32 millimeters. And there is another copy with a distance that's a little bit larger. I'm going to do a total of 3 copies, and then try to present the new feature that it's looking for marks that have a different distance than the standard. Okay, we're starting. Reading marks. Now it's not seeing anything, and now it moves on, finds something. You can see that we have an issue here. The vacuum was not enough, so we created a little bit of an issue at the moment. But what we wanted to show you is first thing is that we cut here in the middle of that, and then the second thing is that it bridged the distance here, and we could find the mark, even though it was a larger distance than it was. Now we there is one more really important thing, that in the past, if you wanted, for example, to cut 20 different or 20 of the same files, and the machine couldn't find a mark or a QR code because of difficult light settings, or one mark was damaged or something, the machine was proceeding and pulling through the media as it went on. Now, with the new firmware, you can set if the machine stops or proceeds, and we know that most of the customers want that the machine is then stopping and not moving on. Then, Julia, maybe we can have a look at the settings in here. We have one more thing. Sometimes, if the quality of the marks might not be perfect, or light settings are more difficult, the machine can now also work with only 2 marks. So it will look for 4 marks, and it will be okay for the machine if it's only found 2 marks and proceed cutting. So with that setting, you can let the machine cut only with 2 marks, but it will, of course, look to find 4 marks in any case. Okay. One more thing is that the machine will now, if it can't find the right, if you don't have the perfect light settings in the beginning, the machine will now proceed cutting and change the light settings by itself. So the machine will then take a little bit longer, because it's changing the light settings in the moment that it's reading it. And in that way, the possibility of really finding the marks, even though the light or the print is not perfect, is much higher. We now will proceed with another sample. I'm going to just get rid of that one. And going to put another sample on. You can see this is one of the samples that we created in the process before. It was done with a perforation cut, and we're going to show this this now. Julia, maybe you can go here. We're going to place the camera. As usual, we are going to move over the first mark, and then we're going to cut 3 of those samples. You can see immediately in that case, working with the perforation mode is much slower. It will, not have the fastest cutting speed that's possible. But if you look at the complete process of doing the transfer, including the cutting, this way may be in any case the fastest way to work, because cutting perforated sheets will make it possible that you, in the complete process, be able to save a lot of time. I stopped the cutter to show this. So everything is now held together in one sheet, and you can later pull out everything once you are at the heat press. The exact perforation that you want can be chosen. But you can see that it's now easy to pull it out, and as you are at the heat press, you have everything together you need for one shirt, and keep things together. And in the whole process of cutting plus transfer plus printing, this might be the fastest way and the most reliable way to work, because you don't do any transfer mistakes and put the wrong number on the wrong size of shirt. So this in a total might be the fastest way of working. This was the second thing that we demonstrated in Digital Factory already, and the last thing we want to show here is, I'm putting this out of the way. Maybe Julia, you can show this. Here you can see that we have one QR code at the beginning, and then we have a number of intermediate marks, and we're now going to show that the machine is reading, or we are going to start the file in the beginning. We're again starting here with the first mark. We can have a look now here in the display, Julia. We can see that there is this long file, and the dashed lines that we have in between, they show the sections. In this case, we have 4 sections, and the file has a total length of 2 meters, and we're going to cut the full file now. Of course, we know that in 90% of the cases, you will not need a really long transfer. There are few customers who do sunshades or any other tents or larger items that they transfer, but in most cases it's just shirts and shorter things. So there is no need, but we wanted to show that it's possible. That one here, and get started. Sorry, we need to stop this. I think we had this before. We have some issues here with the too much downforce. I'm going to start this again. Second time. Wie viel du geschnitten hast. Okay. Nee, du bist jetzt ruhig weg. Looking for the first mark again. Hm? 150. So just to give you an update, Ed just advised me that I used a little bit too much downforce in the past versions that I demonstrated many times. I always used like 300 downforce. Now it looks like 150 is.
It depends on the knife, on the blade which is coming out on the tip of the tip. If it's longer, you don't need as much downforce. So you have to check both.
Okay. So we're giving it another try, and going to start the file again and see how it works this time. Now it's reading the second section. So the same file does now proceed cutting intermediate. So now we see that all of this is cut, and we have this large lizard now being cut. And of course, this lizard is just a demonstration that we are able to cut longer files. In most of the cases, this might not be the case that you cut a large file with large objects, but you will cut large, long files with multiple sections of all kinds of smaller artwork. That's it so far. Just two more small features. You can now also move away the head after cutting. So we know that in many cases, customers will work with just like 1 meter or 60 centimeter files, and every time that the cutting is done, they will take off all that's cut and sort it in boxes or on a table. And now you can get the head moved out of the way automatically. Or if you like, it's also possible that at the end of the cutting, the head will stay where it is, but the media will be feeded forward, and you can then get the cutted artwork being put into a box or whatever you have here. Some customers have tables here, many have boxes, so that's also possible. Okay, so this was our live demonstration, and we now can proceed with the questions that we have. And Andreas is on the way. He can read what we have already received as questions.
So we received one question earlier. I just tried to find the latest question. Okay, so there was one question that is it possible to make the black part of the QR code printed, as we experienced trouble using the belt that's constructing part to the QR code?
So printed with black. At the moment, there are only the two ways how you can work. Either in the DTF mode, there, at least in Digital Factory, everything will be covered with white. And The other way is the classic way with the QR codes in black. But then you would need to cut from the other side. So the film would need to be put the other way around on the belt. So the artwork facing up. This is, but we think that it's maybe not the safest way to work, because if you have tinier structures and small items, while you run them over the belt, they might get hurt, or parts of the glue gets torn apart. So if you do it that way, then you would need to use the classic way of printing with like you print on sublimation, and that way we think there is the danger of hurting the DTF transfers, but technically the machine can, of course, also read black marks.
Okay, thank you so far. We have then several questions from David. Thank you very much for this. And he sums that up. So I will just read it, and then he adds if this will be resolved with the latest version of the firmware. So,
good.
QR code failures. The Secabo sometimes fails to read the QR code. When navigating to the folder on the Secabo, files initially don't appear. If you exit and reopen the folder, the files show up, suggesting it's not refreshing correctly.
This is so the QR code is not read. Then you go to the folder, and the newly added files don't show there. That's something that I don't know by heart if this is fixed at the moment. David, this would be something that we need to check and see if the newest firmware version does correct that. If it's corrected, we would let you know, or otherwise we will put it onto our bug list and try to get that sorted with the next update.
Then another question, cutting on the back side of the table. Occasionally, the Secabo recognizes the QR code and registration marks, but after positioning, it begins cutting on the back side of the table.
So this might be something that that the cut might be 180 degrees in the wrong direction. So maybe the wrong file. Maybe we need to, because I don't get that 100%. So this might be a problem with the plot file is maybe turned at 180 degrees, maybe that way. This question also comes from David, and maybe David, we would need to clarify that with some tests, or maybe get something like a picture or video from you, so we could investigate how that exactly happens. So could be something with turning at 180 degree. There is something in the new firmware that feature that I did not show you. Maybe Julia, you could come around. So if you, with the new firmware, if you choose a file by hand, you have the possibility to rotate the file by 180 degree. So in case the preparation of the file does not enable you to cut in both directions, so the way it's coming out of the printer or the other direction, in that case, you can rotate it by 180 degree and cut it from the other side. But I think in your case, this is directing into another thing. And what you could do is to just, if you have an example, maybe let us know, maybe a photo, video, or even the PLT file, and then we can look into that, where this comes from. Is it something that is caused by the machine, or is it a setting that is done either in the plugin or it's done in the RIP software? So this would be necessary to look more in depth into that, where this comes from, and then find a solution for that.
Okay, and the last part of David is freezing. At times, the cable freezes entirely, requiring a restart to resume operation.
It does
Freezing.
freezing.
Yes.
Yeah. So I haven't had that with the newest firmware version. To me, with all the tests I did, this happened maybe very few times that the firmware freeze. And I think this is getting much better with the newest firmware version. And yeah, I recommend to download the newest version and get a test. And I believe that it's already with the last version it got much better. And I think with the newest version we can entirely get rid of that.
Okay. Then we have a question from Nadine. Is the module that is needed for Digital Factory version 11 to create a PLT file called contact cutting module?
Yes, it is called that way. And we can later send you, if you like, we could send you the product code. I don't know it by heart, but later we can send you the product code from the product items list of Digital Factory. We have that, but I don't know that product code by heart. There are many different modules, and we can let you know the exact item number.
Okay. Louis is asking, I've been using Hosen Soft Print X to create copies and set a distance between each cut, and even changed the distance on the Secabo itself. But still, it likes to skip cut 2, misses 1, then cut 3, and so on.
Yeah, this might come from the QR codes not being read properly. So the newest firmware version will, in the first place, improve reading of the QR codes, because it's changing light settings and contrast settings on its own once it can't find the proper QR code, and it will then stop instead of moving on. And the second thing that we recommend when you cut a larger number of copies, so you have 8 copies of the same print file, we recommend to use just choosing the file by hand instead of using the QR code, if you know that sometimes the QR codes are not read 100%. In that case, you zero out the possibility that the QR code is not read, and reading the QR code is most practical if you have a large number of different jobs. If you have a larger number of always the same, it's more useful to just choose the file and then go on.
Okay, then we have a question from Remco, who was asking earlier for his black QR code. Now he's saying, we use the classic way right now and it works, but there is a bug in the printed identification number with a big white box around it.
Okay, so you are using it from Digital Factory, or you are using it from our plugin, or another repo?
So Remco, I'll wait for your answer. So I think there is the
Cut link.
Kathleen, okay. I think there is a setting, if I remember well, in Kotlin to add or remove the white box. Let us look into that. And if we can't remove that white box, we will add this to our bug report for Digital Factory. If you leave your contact here or send it to us by mail at Secabo, we can investigate if this is a setting or a bug, and then get back to you.
Okay, another question from Remco. We find the cutter algorithm for cutting order is not very logical in a lot of cases. It is very randomly cutting out the transports. Is there a solution of this?
So the cutting order, so the machine itself does not sort the cutting order. The cutting order, the lineup of shapes that are cut is created either by the plugin in Illustrator or by Digital Factory. So the machine itself just works through the PLT file from top to bottom and does not sort anything. There are sorting options in Digital Factory. Maybe again we will we'll show some screenshots where you can in Digital Factory where you can define the way that things are cut one after the other. And the way we use it with doing this matrix cut, so if you have different numbers of the same logo, this way is our recommended way to get rid of most of the issues with the plotter running around at the table and cutting the next one. So there are some sort options in Digital Factory, and the cutter itself gets information in the way it needs to cut, and the PLT file is created by Digital Factory itself.
Another question is, how did you make the plotter cutting horizontally and vertically instead of cutting square by square? Because ours always cut square by square.
This is maybe something I move back to the computer and go to Digital Factory. This is an easy one.
Wieder anpinnen.
This is an easy one. So the way I did this is here at the moment. It's set to cut squares, as you can see, and I'm now going to change that the way you need it. Okay, so now Digital Factory freeze. Oh no. Okay. So go to the section in the queue set, queue properties, weed borders. And the way you do that is by enabling the first 3 checkboxes here. Weed border around each job, and then vertical and horizontal lines. And I'm going to demonstrate that. So if you then drag in artwork, I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to add some copies. Maybe a couple of lines. And now you can see that it's not cutting rectangles around each job. It's cutting just horizontal and vertical lines. And this is definitely our recommended way of cutting, because you get rid of all sorting issues, and it's the fastest way, because first you will cut only a fraction of the length of the cut, and second you will also get the plotter to a higher speed, because it's the length of the cut is much longer, so the cutter will speed up to a much higher end speed and be able to cut much better.
So that was all for now. I also think that Renzo is happy with your answer. He added, we apply white underbase with classic mode. And then he says, very clear, thanks. So I hope that Bernhard answered your question. If not, if you have any further questions, please email us at mail@secabo.com. Okay, here's another question. You showed us a kind of PLT reader. Could you send us as well?
Let me check if this is license free. I don't know at the moment. Let me check that. If possible, yes, we can send this through. It's a nice way of checking PLT files. We will check the license on this PLT preview software, and in case it's free, yeah, everybody can have it.
So he's clarifying that this was actually Konstantin who showed.
Yeah, I know that's the PLT analyzing tool. It's useful, and yeah, we will check the license on that and see if we can share it with everybody. So again, please, if you like the recording of that webinar, leave your email address here or send it to us later by email on mail@secabo.com. Also, for everybody who leaves contact details, we will let you have the update and the license for the newest plugins, plus the download link for the newest firmware version. And in addition to that, everybody who participated this webinar will get a nice goodie that's worth of getting. So don't hesitate to leave your contacts. Thank you very much. This was a long and in-depth webinar. Thank you for the attention, and yeah. Please be reminded, we are really happy to get your feedback. We are happy to get answers. So any obstacles you are facing using the machine, or also recommendations how to improve firmware or hardware, don't hesitate to let us know. We're always keen on listening to customers, and it's super good to receive the first-hand feedback from those who use the machine. So don't hesitate to send all this to us. If possible, we will put this into the features of the future. So thank you very much, and have a nice weekend, and see you soon. Bye-bye.